Welcome to the Buy Box Bandits podcast.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Buy Box Bandits podcast. We hope you're listening to this while you're fulfilling those last couple FBM orders on the way to those last couple RA runs right here, because finishing up through the best time of the year. And we're talking today with a man who was able to crush this past December in his first December. So we're here with Parker Biederer, viral Twitter sensation, new to the scene as of yesterday, right? As of yesterday, going viral on Twitter. Former D1 athlete, sold over 100Ks first December. So we're going to break down the science of rapidly growing this stuff the right way. But thanks for joining us, Parker. And you want to fill us in on, who you are, where you're from, your story, and then really how you got into selling on Amazon.
Yeah, so first off, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. I've probably watched every episode that you guys
have.
That increases the buy box share. But I was pretty much an athlete my whole life. I went down to a small school, a junior college actually. Didn't make it D1 at first. And then I spent 3 years down there, and I walked on to Georgia Southern, which had a pretty good program, but you never know if you're going to have a spot. And worked my way in there, got the scholarship after a year, and I was actually probably the oldest athlete in college 2 years ago. I was in my 6th year of college baseball because of COVID and because of a red shirt. And so that year was absolutely crazy. We hosted a regional, which is pretty much, if you don't know, you host the tournament at your field, like the national tournament. We were the 16 seed, which
was that like a super regional or whatever it's called?
Yeah, so there's regionals and then super regionals and then College World Series. Yeah. So we hosted a regional. We ended up losing to Notre Dame and Texas Tech. So, it was really good teams in there. And so kind of just joined into the working world about a year in. And my buddy was like, hey, dude, I'm going to start selling on Amazon. And I was like, I didn't even know that third-party sellers sold on Amazon. This is how 5 months ago, I didn't even know any of this. And I was like, all right, yeah, I'll look into it. And that night I made an LLC. I went ahead.
That's it.
Right into it. Yeah. No hesitation.
Jumped in on it and ordered, a card, getting the whole business set up. And I went through y'all's content for 2 weeks. I just absolutely binged it. I couldn't believe the information that you guys were giving out for free. I was like, how is this free? And then Miles had a Word document that I just followed step by step on how to have a good Q4. It's the whole, I sold 100K, all that. And I was like, I'm going to do this. 5 months ago, I was literally laying up late at night saying I can do this. And I bought the Keep a subscription free trial because I couldn't wait for the card to get there. And I just started sourcing. And, I made a whole leads list. I was storefront stalking somebody that had 3 reviews. I thought I knew what I was doing, and I made 30 leads. And then when the card got there a week later, they were all tanked. So I was like, thank God I didn't spend any money.
Yeah.
So yeah, I kind of just jumped in like that.
Before we get too into it, do you remember your stat line, your first start?
Are you talking about the Amazon?
No, baseball.
At Georgia Southern, I honestly can't remember.
Well, it's tough. Well, I guess
6 years we're talking here.
Yeah, true.
So you legit learned about this stuff in July and August.
Oh, it was late August.
Late August. Oh, so it's even sooner. Yeah. So some of you guys listening to this have been considering starting for more time than that, right? So you can really get into. So, okay. Can you kind of walk us through the trajectory? So, okay. First sale, I guess, is in September.
First sale was probably late August.
Late August. Okay. So then a couple sales late August, and then walk us through September, October, November, and then December, the trajectory.
Yeah. So first August, it was it was all FBM. I didn't do an FBA order until probably early November, and I've only done 4 in total. But yeah, it was 1K in August, and then 4K in September, and then 15K in November, and then 40K. Actually, no. So it was 15K October, 40K November, and then right now we're sitting at 116K for the month.
Yeah, bro, feels good. Bro, felt good.
So there's a lot of obviously changes that happen from 4,000, 11,000 to 100,000. So just from a cash management perspective, how have you been able to kind of manage that flow? Were you using loans, credit cards, obviously FBM a lot, so that helps a bunch. But a lot of people are sitting there tapped out on cash completely. So like, how were you able to make it work?
Yeah, so I opened 3 cards. I started with the Blue business, and then I also got a Capital One Spark and then the Plum as well. And I actually didn't manage my cash the best way, like right before Black Friday. So I actually had a family member help me out, and they gave me a lot of capital as well. So it was a lot of run and gun, like transferring money in the store. Like, I need, am I going to be able to get approved for this payment? And that's just kind of like the way I went with it. But I feel like it's been working out.
Yeah, and when you go at it like just really balls to the wall, like you've only been doing this for 4 months, but you've, in terms of like actual like output, in terms of like effort put into it, you've done more than a lot of people have been at it like a year and a half. And it was the same way for Garrett and I back in the day. Like we were living and breathing it. Like I'm in the chat with you and all the boys. Like I see it every day. It's like every day at every day in the morning, you know, all the time, right? So you've had more Amazon conversations than, you know, the vast majority of the people that do this. And that's why, you know, you've been able to, you know, get results quick and such. What is, so obviously like the big kind of connect is like, okay, how do I find good products? So what does that look like in terms of like initially, and then just ultimately, what does that look like today in terms of a lot of the sourcing side of things? 'Cause that's the main bottleneck for almost everyone.
Yeah, so I think when I first started, it was like 8-hour day sourcing, because I was mostly OA, and I didn't really. I mean, you try to jump from brand to brand to brand when you first start, and you don't really know what you're looking at. And I think for me, once I stuck with one brand and got to where I could scroll a web page and see and know what products are supposed to be selling for, then I started having success. As soon as I jumped off to another brand, it was instantly slowing me down like 30 minutes to an hour. So I kind of wanted to dive into one brand, really get to know everything, the ins and outs of that brand. And then, you know, obviously in the future, I can expand, but I really wanted to hone in on that. And then obviously, once the group was made, it's just so much easier to source.
But keep going with that though, because what does that actually look like though? Because like that's the key to this entire thing. The entire thing is that. So keep going with that dynamic.
Yeah. So I'll just break down honestly how the group was made, because I think it's a lot of people. I've had a lot of people reaching out to me in the DMs like, hey, how do I get in a group? Stuff like this. So I kind of want to, for the viewers, our group was made in like 2 weeks. We had it ready to go, 8 people, committed Amazon sellers. And I think that it all started really with one post from me. I said, I'm a new seller looking to network, and instantly had like 20 DMs. And I think
That's the Jules model.
Yeah, it shit works though, bro. Like it works, man. Like, you know.
yeah. And so I had DMs, and I kind of filtered through people that I thought I could hang out with on a daily basis, because I think you need to be friends more than
That's
anything.
it. Yes.
You said that better than I've ever heard it said, and way better than I've ever said. So that is absolute. That's it right there. Yeah.
And if you feel like you can get along with the people, then you know it's going to be a successful group. So basically, I texted with Cooper, and then he was like, "I'm in a group message with Jake." It was just them two. He added me in, and I was like,
Carolina gang. Yeah.
"All right, yeah, we're in here." And then Will, 19-year-old, just goes, "Yeah, let's get on a video call tonight." I'm like,
Ooh,
"All right, let's do
yeah,
this."
yeah, there we go.
So we hop on the call. I'm like, "All right, he's legit. I'm adding him in." So right then, one day, 4 people in there. And then you got the buddy I knew like in person, Will, and I was like, if you go ahead and get in like school and all that, then I'll add you in, because it's only fair. Everyone in there has already done it. So I added him in the next day, and then the infamous 0-day handle time video hits the feed, and you're like proclaiming him as the next up, and I'm like, dude, we gotta have him. We gotta have him. So I DM him that night, and I'm like, I was in another group with him, but it was like 25 people sending leads. You know, you're not really getting anywhere with that. And I was like, come over to this one. Like, we're pretty serious and we're getting going. And you could tell he had been hitting the Nike outlets, and he was like he's sending me like paragraphs. I'm like, this dude is dedicated, bro. So added him in. And then from a good source, we got Gavin, you know, like 2 days later, and then he added his brother. So within like a week and a half, we had 20K profit right there.
Yes, sir. Yeah, that's the name. That was what I named it though when I saw the greatness, right? So these different chats have different names. Yeah. Right there. And so what that looks like basically, like from anyone who kind of doesn't have experience with that, is legit just like imagine like I guess, I don't know, like a high school lunch table or whatever, just
Yeah.
like throughout the day. Like,
And he nailed the chronological order too. He knew exactly when people joined and the order in which they did.
Yeah, and like every day I wake up, there's good morning sitting in the chat.
of course.
I text Aaron and I say, which volume of, of Big Booty Mix are we listening to today when we pack? He lets me know. I go and check the in stocks, see what's going on, and then we pack our orders and go on with the day.
Yep. And it makes this stuff so much more fun too. And you also have a 9 to 5 doing this whole thing too, right? That's fairly demanding from what we've talked.
Yeah, it's been crazy, but luckily it's kind of, you know, I go to work. I don't have to stay at the office 9 to 5. It's kind of like intermittent work throughout the day.
Oh, that's huge.
Yeah.
Yes,
Someone put out a tweet a couple days ago. It's like remote work is just getting paid to pack FBM orders.
Bro, that's hilarious.
I forget who put it out. I wish I could give him credit, but yeah.
Yeah. So you probably only sold like 100 units FBA the whole time, basically.
Yeah, which I want to get into more, but
oh well, you're gonna have to. But it's crazy. Like how many people have been at this for years, like, yeah, I can't get the buy box FBM. And then you got dudes like who don't know any better, who just list stuff up, and there we go. You keep rolling, and then you see that momentum and you never let go of it.
And so out of that group, what percentage of people had played sports competitively, whether it be high school, college? Do you know?
I think it's like half, and Gavin's actually still playing college baseball right now.
Yeah, that's what's cool too. Yeah, and then ironically too, Gavin's brother is Cole, who's also in there. Him and I were so cool back in 2019, pre-Amazon days, actually too. This is a super small world with this stuff and everything too. But it's basically right like a high school lunch table or like whatever, but it's like a 24/7 conversation about Amazon and just banter, etc. Right, and people need that environment so badly, right? Because you can be yourself there, right? There's no boss breathing down your neck, right? There's no girlfriend, parents, nothing, zero. It's its own little utopia of wealth accumulation because you get to choose who you talk to about this stuff, right? Most people talk to no one, and that makes it a lot harder.
And most people are forced to talk to their coworkers, right?
Well,
and
exactly.
in this case,
yeah,
you
yeah.
get to
I mean,
pick your
in
coworkers.
this regard, though, yeah, right. Because you got to figure it's like the Amazon conversations you have determine the success you have with the stuff, right? And most people's only Amazon conversations they have are their coworkers or whatever telling them that doesn't work, right, or hiding it from them, etc. Right? So stuff is super, super important as one. So also, how do you have so many followers in the first place? Because you have like a lot on multiple platforms, right?
It was just a high school thing. I was like ahead of the curve with social media, and I like blew up on Instagram. I had like, as a freshman in high school, I had like 70,000 followers on Instagram.
Oh, holy shit!
So
you were
7-0.
Yeah, and then
early.
I kind of I stopped using it. I was like, this isn't really that cool. I grew up in the high school, you're trying to be like cooler, and honestly, I regret doing that. But the followers, just a lot of them are old, and then also my sister is like a singer.
Oh, cool. And then
So what kind of like posts were you making though?
It was literally just like selfies and stuff.
But the dudes weren't posting like that. So I guess dudes were it was probably getting organic traffic and such. So what kind of gave you the confidence? Like, were you selling stuff as a kid or like what made you think that this really worked? Because you got into it super quick in the way that my friend Danny like really got into it, like the made the decision that night type of vibe. And most people have horrible indecision about this stuff.
Yeah, I think I've never sold in the past. I think for me, it was like just everything I've done in my life. I feel like I've been able to make it work. And just having that mindset more than, you know, having a reselling experience was big for me. You know, you go and walk onto a D1 team and literally no one knew who I was. Like, it was like, who is this kid? He's, you know, trying to get a roster spot. And then it turned into I was the leader on the team as we go to a regional, like within 2-3 years. So once you do something like that, I feel like you can kind of do anything as long as you put enough time into it.
So being that obviously Q4 prep, Q4 in general is so fresh in your mind, and people are going to be listening to this episode for years, what could you kind of give of value to the next person getting ready for Q4, whether it be September, October, November? What sorts of preparations did you make? Were you sourcing ahead of time, maybe seasonal stuff, storing cash, getting ready for FBM? Like, what were you doing to get ready for what now is a super successful December?
Yeah, so I think for us, it was keep with the stuff we've had. We looked into some seasonal stuff, but I had no idea what I was looking at. You know, I'm so new. I'm looking at websites I've never seen. I just wanted to stick with what we had. We really didn't even need to source because we were testing products that whole time. That entire 2-3 months, it was buy 5 of these, see what moves. And then, the capital situation is probably the biggest part, I think. I ran out of credit probably a week before Black Friday, and I had 2 cards coming in, thinking that sales would start on Black Friday and go through the week of Black Friday, but they actually start like a week before. So I think next year I'd be a little more prepared with that.
And so have you run into any products or keepographs that maybe didn't operate as you would expect or as you did expect? And sort of like what were some of those sort of red flags that you should have picked up on to maybe alert you to like the tanking market or the product that just didn't operate?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me is when I'm looking at a keepograph and the offer count, if there's a lot of straight lines, for me, it's just never ends well. When I first started, I was buying a lot of slow moving products. Like the ROI was good, but they just weren't moving. Like I literally sold a couple items that I've had since August, like last week, because I've just been like I would, and honestly, looking back, I probably should just cut loss like right away. I would probably do that, but I would focus on, even if the ROI is a little smaller, if it's moving quicker, because then you're going to get that feedback quicker too.
And then
But that's like, I feel like just like a natural sort of progression, right? A lot of newer sellers, a lot of immature sellers, maybe overindulge or over obsess over one factor or two, right? But something that I've kind of always considered and tell people that I do work with are like, look for reasons not to buy something, right? Have your checklist of all the different aspects that you're looking for, and every single time iterate through that and look for a reason not to, right? Because that's going to allow you to really cumulatively look at that product as a whole rather than, oh, shoot, that's my 30% ROI margin. I'm in. You know what I'm saying?
100%. I actually remember that from your videos. Like that was one.
yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And then also in terms like making OA items profitable, like when you see an item
Yeah.
on the website, like going through, is there a coupon code? Can I get a gift card? Is there a holiday next week? Or will it probably be a sale? Going on to, that's a good point. The Black Friday sales did start substantially earlier than they had in the past. I think that's kind of just like with Black Friday going more digital, that being thing. So everyone's got to be ready. You got to be ready like November 20th or whatever, like the Sunday before Black Friday is typically when a lot of stuff starts. And then just a super relevant, just that, I mean, we were talking about on that coaching call forever last night, but expedite shipping costs right now, you can make like so much extra money by putting like, I don't know, like 30 or 40 bucks for expedite shipping cost, because Amazon charges you like 10 to 15 bucks on like a certain percentage of the orders. But if you charge the customer a lot, you end up making like an extra like 10 or 15 or even 20 bucks profit in those cases. So if you're listening to this, test that stuff out and see what happens. But like, there's a lot of people, there's a math equation, like obviously you'd have to go into a lot of detail on it, where like you can sell stuff for like $1 less right now, right? And make way more money just because the increased volume. And then the expedite shipping cost is going to be the big thing that evens out of like a certain percentage of orders. I think is pretty neat too. That and keep a product finding for FBM buy boxes only. It's a really good method for everyone listening too.
Yeah. So as we move into 2024, do you have any particular maybe plans to obviously work back to FBA at some point, but maybe wholesale, private label? What's your 2024 looking like? Do you have a number you're shooting for?
I wouldn't say there's a number yet, but I think the biggest thing is to try and find a prep center, because I feel like I'm doing enough units now to where it's worth it. And then also I have sales tax in Georgia, so that's probably the next big movement. And then to dabble into wholesale, get used to calling suppliers and stuff like that. Even if I don't open an account right away, just getting my feet wet with that. And yeah.
Rumor has it our dog Max Cat may have an answer for you pretty soon here.
Yeah. And yeah, what I like too about the way, so the way like you and the boys all have really done it is very similar to how we did it back in the day, like the anti-delegation model, like the not worrying about, like just purely focusing on what can I do to make the most money possible today, because that's how you learn and iterate really quick. Like you guys are all sitting there fulfilling FBM orders yourselves. You guys are all sitting there buying yourselves. It's like, how many people will take 12 or 18 months to get the same results you got in 4 months because you've compressed it so much in that time frame, right? So now you learn, and now you can go delegate if you want. Like, did you guys end up getting that shared VA?
Yeah, and honestly, we haven't maximized that because we got it like end of November, so we already knew. But I think that's another thing. Train him up a little bit better in January, and just kind of maximize that when we need more leads. But right now, it's kind of been, we have so many people. We have eight. That's the biggest thing, is like you have 8 people finding leads right now, and I think when I first started, I was so scared to share a lead because my leads were selling so slow.
That's such a good point too. Yeah, right. But then when you see a listing that it on SellerAmp, it might say 25 estimated this month, but that really might be 10,000 or 15,000, right? And then you consider how finite capital is, right? Between when you're talking about, 8 guys between 18 and 25 trying to get X, Y, or 26, whatever, XYZ amount of money. Like you could all be spending like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, like $1.5 million combined a month, and there's still be a ton of good stuff out there to buy, right? So it's like that. And then also getting past the scarcity mindset too is really tough for people, because your whole life you're taught like, keep what you have to yourself, don't cheat on the test, don't share with other people, etc. And then you realize this thing was an entire group project in the first place too. And
Right.
in terms of just like kind of comparing it to being an athlete, like how is selling on Amazon? Like, is it more demanding than being a D1 athlete? Is it less? Like how do these things compare?
I'd say Q4 was more demanding, but I think as like in general, I think an athlete's actually harder, because it's just, you wake up, you go to weights, you go to class, you go to practice, you come home and you have to study, and you do that pretty much every single day. And then maybe have an off day on Sunday sometimes. And then also the travel schedule is pretty brutal. If you're going on the road, it's like 8-hour bus trips, on top of all that.
And someone else makes you do it too. Right.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I guess that might make it selling on Amazon harder, you know what I mean? Or easier, right?
But this stuff just gets so much so much easier as you compound.
Right.
Right? You're obviously you get quicker. You can disqualify faster. You have your niche brands that you like to go to, right? You notice that 3 months in that, all right, I'm not going to necessarily stray too far away from what I know works. I'm going to double down, triple down on that. And that makes you more efficient. That makes you more valuable of a sourcer, right? So all these things start to compound, right? You have the ability now to place deeper orders, to go bigger on your orders, right? Which makes you more money with less time. All these things with time, with experience, with confidence compound over time. And so next Q4, you're going to be so much more prepared with so much more leverage to make 5 times more money, 10 times more money.
So
100%.
And you also probably, I mean, I have to say, you probably do have the #1 dad in the entire Amazon space. Just statistically, in terms of output on the business, it's got to be right up there. So
It's gotta be. I don't know how I might have to hire him part-time as a
I mean, bro's in my Twitter replies, like showing love, showing love. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he actually said he might actually open a seller account, so we'll see.
Yeah, totally should. Yeah, well, we could put him on to so much stuff.
Exactly. That's why I was like, I can literally help you.
Yeah, bro, it's probably like in terms of like
That's the
#1
thing. You get the
like
network.
activity in the space. Yeah.
Are you still living at home though?
Am I? No, I actually live in a 3rd floor apartment. So every time I got a package, I had to drive to the mailroom, load up the car, and bring it up 3 steps.
Yeah, we're just destroying limiting beliefs, right? And he has a full-time job, right? And a girlfriend, right? Yeah, it's like, there's a lot of shit going on, but you make it happen. You make it happen, right? There's a certain pocket of your life prior to having kids where you can sit there and run it up, or you can play video games and scroll TikTok. It's your choice. And I just can't imagine not maximizing that. You know what I mean? Like, and it's just interesting. Like, do you feel like you're working a lot more than you were? Like, do you feel like your life's busier, like compared to pre-Amazon, or is Amazon a lot of fun where like you don't even really notice?
It's definitely like you don't really notice. I think I would compare it because I used to play when I was way younger. I used to play Xbox, and I would compare it to that. Whereas it's not really work, but you kind of just hop on and you're in the Discord chopping it up. But this time you're actually making money with doing it instead of just kind of staring at a screen all day.
Yeah, and it's important the way it evolves too, right? Because like for people with like an employee mindset, right? They're like, oh my gosh, you're going to be driving around to Dick's Sporting Goods for the next 20 years? Well, of course not, right? I'm going to be, if I want to, I'll be living in Bali while my people in the Philippines run the business for me, right? Or, maybe I'll have a big warehouse, and such. You definitely got to look into that cash and carry stuff too in your local areas. Well, and anyone listening to this does too, because we had a good dude from Atlanta talking on our show like a year ago about all that. So you got to get on that shit for sure too. And everything. Can you talk about some of the kind of like unique strategies you guys have implemented, whether it be like, pickup orders, price matching, without getting into too much specifics, but some of the fancy stuff that like, there's a lot of like adults will ask me like 86 questions about when you guys will just fucking walk in and do it. Right. So talk about some of those strategies that have been really, really helpful and unique that dudes aren't talking about.
Yeah, especially in Q4, I think we've used RA a ton. And RA differently than most people think. Like we're not walking in the store and scanning
Oh,
products.
brutal. Couldn't imagine doing that. Yeah, couldn't imagine.
We know exactly what we want when we walk in the store, and it's more of, we're using price match and then we're using other stuff. And it's how can I get this product cheaper than everyone else? And whether that's, a certain employee's working today, all the managers of certain stores have my number. Like it's a different form of RA than when I first started. When I first started, it was like walk into Academy and scan everything on there and see what it was. But now it's you mature as a seller, and it's kind of like it's relationship based with the employee rather than just like trying to find a product in the store.
And
But
then
so many people are so scared to say what's up or to admit what they're doing, right? So many people listening to this right now have been at a register and be like, "Oh yeah, I'm donating it. I'm giving it to a team or something like that, or buying gifts." Whereas they can just be honest, be upfront, and they'll probably benefit way, way, way more from that.
100%, because then a lot of people actually respect it. They're like, wow, really? Like that's really impressive. Like, because you're a young guy. I mean, there's nothing to hide from doing it. Like I just say I started a business, and like I'm trying to, like, my financials, I'm trying to fix it for the future, and they like it.
yeah,
That's
and,
it.
and if they say no, who cares, right? Like, yeah, like you're moving forward, right? You're building yourself too. You're building your own work ethic. That's like why low key scanning stuff is really good, though. Like just in terms of at the start, like if you're listening to this, like pre New Year's, go do some RA, right? See what's good with it, right? You already got the podcast in if you're hearing this, right? Go scan some RA stuff, right? The RA to FBM pipeline is alive and well. I was doing Keep a Product Finder last night, and it's like 33,000 Nike items. Are below 50,000 sales ring across all categories, and 24,000 of them currently have an FBM buy box. That shows the opportunity is alive and well. Do not sleep on this, boys and girls listening. In January and February, it's going to be substantially harder. So you got to maximize it while it's here, right? And then you send an FBA inventory once your FBM stuff slows down. As well, that'll be an interesting transition for a lot of you guys too. That's like legit exactly what my situation was in January of 2021. I had to take the whole month off buying too to fix my personal credit too, but that's a whole nother story. And unfortunately, a lot of people are gonna have to do that as well. And then so just in terms of like overall breaking it down, like you obviously have grown substantially like in the past 2 months. Break down like biggest tips for beginners for success as we finish up here.
I mean, obviously, it's so cliche, but if I was to try and find a way to sell on Amazon right now and be the best seller possible, this is what I would do. I would post a video and I would be completely honest. Like the post I made the other day, it was just completely honest. I went from making a Twitter that was not my like actual Twitter, and I had like 2 followers and no one was following me. I wasn't posting anything. And then I said, you know what? I'm going to go on my actual Twitter, which I've had for years, and I'm just going to post about Amazon. And I don't care. As soon as I decided, like, I don't care what people think, then I like the business just started taking off.
But you don't even have to do that, right? Even if you have self-consciousness from where you came from, the people, right? There's nothing wrong with making a completely new account,
Oh, yeah.
following a bunch of Amazon people, engaging, interacting, starting from zero and just building it, right? You took one route, but that doesn't have to be the route that everyone takes, right? There's nothing wrong with completely starting from scratch because you can grow so easily. You just spend an hour engaging, replying, commenting every single day, following everyone that's relevant, and you'll start growing regardless.
Yeah, you said that really well. You should rip a video on that tonight, actually. The finding the people you would hang out with, because like that's exactly the way. Like I've never heard it worded that well, but that's like exactly what you got to do. You got to find 2 to 5, maybe even more people that you would hang out with that are interested in this stuff and that you'll talk to very, very frequently about this stuff and make your life a lot easier, right? Then where can people follow you on the socials?
Yeah, so it's just at Parker Biederer, Biederer, and that is both Instagram and Twitter.
Oh,
So,
yeah, bro's popping on both of them too, because you got like 5K on Twitter as well, right?
yeah, I got a lot this week just from literally posting about.
Yeah, well, that one tweet did really well. And it's like all those are just shots on goal, shots on goal, shots on goal. And so many people are taking so few shots on goal. You got to have a massive surface area of luck with this stuff. That's the key. Create a big enough net and actually something's going to hit and everything. But thanks for coming on. Keep up the good work.
Yes, sir. Thank y'all for having me.